What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kieran and I help people using a spiritual perspective. Today, guys, I'm going to be going over 22 things that I learned this year, 2022. All right. Now, I did just wake up from a nap, so if I look like a rape victim or something like that, then I apologize. But it's just a nap. I'm a tired guy. But I wanted to make this video. This is going to be my last video of the year. Not forever, unless I die, in which case it will be the last. But just for the year, I'm going to take the next two and a half weeks to relax, rest, recharge, and use that energy to move forward into 2023. I've been through a lot this year. I've done a lot of things, a lot of creative projects I finished. And I just need a break, need a rest, okay? So I'm going to just take a step back from, online stuff, things like that. But I wanted to still make a list of the things that I've learned. These are things that I'm still learning, some of them, things that I have learned, but they're realizations that I came to myself, and I hope that they may be able to help you as well. And obviously, there's 22 of these things. Most of them are really topics for their own video, so I'm going to go over them very briefly, because otherwise this video would be an hour and 22 minutes long, and I love talking, but I don't know if I have that much in me. I probably do. But either way, I'm going to just be reading from this list, guys. And if you see me sort of look away for a brief second, it's just because I wrote it all down. I can't remember this shit. You would have to be as high as a kite to think that I could remember all these 22 things. So I'm still paying attention to you. Just written it down here a little bit, okay? All right, guys, so let's just get started. All right, so the first thing that I learned this year is that nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares about you, okay? Now, outside of close friends and family, sure, right? You have people that support you, but ultimately, most people don't care what you're saying, what you're doing, how you're acting. People go to sleep at the end of the day, and you're the farthest thing from the thought in their head, okay? Most people. So letting judgment or a fear of judgment from others stop us from doing things is redundant, useless. It doesn't matter too much because ultimately nobody really cares anyway, so we may as well just get on with it. And truth be told, we don't really care either. Number 2 is that people die. They do. Did you know that? People die. I will die one day, hopefully soon. No, I'm just kidding. But I will die one day, and when I do, I will cease to exist or pay taxes or wear coats during videos. But I realized that people do die. I felt it. It's not just the realization; it's the feeling, that the knowledge that the people that you love will move on. They will go. And I learned this year because for the first time in my life, and I guess I can consider myself lucky in this regard, I lost somebody that I actually cared about. And my favorite aunt, she died of ovarian cancer, and unfortunately I never really got to say goodbye. The last time I saw her was 2019, and I found out she had cancer earlier this year, and nobody told me in my family. And then I told her she'd be better, all this stuff, and then a week before my birthday in September, she died. I found out by looking up the obituaries in Ireland. Nobody told me she died. Pretty fucked up, but it was a realization for me that while I do miss her, without the aspect of death, life would have truly no meaning. It would be utterly redundant and pointless. And whatever she is, and whatever the real her, whatever that energy is, and wherever she is, because I don't believe in a strict sort of definition of heaven or things like that, but she's okay, and I'm okay. And you're okay, and we're all going to be okay. And death is ultimately a part of life. So, number 3 is you're better off alone than in bad company. Okay, so I've lost friends this year, intentionally, unintentionally, unconsciously, consciously, however you want to look at it. But what I have learned from that is that it's better to have good, healthy, real, legitimate laughs on your own than it is to fake laugh with people just for the sake of not having to be lonely. It's better to be alone than in bad company. Number 4, toxic family members, you don't need them. They don't need to stick around. If you have family members in your life, cousins, aunts, uncles, fathers, mothers, okay, grandparents, you don't need them if they're toxic. If they tear you down, if they make you feel small, there's no reason to keep them around. I know that there's a tendency to think, oh, we're spiritual, we got to get along with everybody and we can change ourselves. And once we change ourselves, then our family will change and we'll all change and we'll all be great and happy. But, that's really only the case with family members who aren't necessarily toxic. I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, you're spiritual, so you should make up with your, parents that molested you or something. That's horrible advice. And generally, some people just don't change. So no matter how spiritual you get or how enlightened you get, these people will remain the same. And if they tear you down and try to bring you down to their level, then there's no use having them in your life. Maybe one day you can reconcile with them or things like that. But if they are toxic for you right now in the moment, best thing you can do is move on from them, and you'll thank yourself in 6 months. Number 5 is I'll never give up. Now, hopefully this applies to you guys too, but what I realized about myself is that no matter how many setbacks or challenges or, popsicles in my ass that I experience from life, I will never give up. I will never actually stop moving forward. And the benefit of that was that so much of my suffering that I had been accumulating essentially sort of dissipated. Simply because I realized, something would happen and I'd have a tantrum, or I'd cry, or I'd just be angry with life or the universe. I'd be like, God damn you, just sort of very in my head about it, very egotistical about it, just very affected. And but then I would get up. I'd get up a day or two later and I'd just go back at it, just try again. And I did that so many times this year that it eventually just kind of clicked that it didn't matter what happened. I was always going to keep going. So now I don't necessarily care so much about the result, but trust that what I'm doing is what I want to do, and I will continue to do that. So hopefully you guys will realize that too, is that if you know that you're always going to do something, it doesn't matter what happens, and that frees so much negativity up. It just kind of gets it out of your head. Number 6 is to listen to your body. So your body can tell you all sorts of stuff. Obviously, it can tell you what you should eat, what you're feeling, what you should be doing, does it need rest, things like that. So we can listen to our body. There's a tendency to listen to our mind as if it has all the answers, but it really doesn't. The mind is there mostly to provide directions, but someone needs to tell the mind where it's going. And the body can do that, so can your soul, your intuition, of course, but the body would surprise you by how much it can do. And it can heal relatively quickly, actually. And the things that it can do, just to let you know how you're feeling around people, for instance, right? So you're around people, does your body feel tense? Does your breath become shallow? Like, your body will give you sensations to let you know how something feels, even a potential future, how that might look for you. And if your body reacts negatively to that, an uncomfortable feeling starts to come up, you can pay attention to that feeling, and it might actually give you a clue as to where you're supposed to go or what you're supposed to be doing. Number 7 is that there's nothing wrong with you, or me. Right? This is true. There's nothing wrong with you. Now, obviously, self-help, self-transformation, these are great concepts because they help us understand more about ourselves. But there is a large tendency in general to think that by constantly going down this self-help, fixing ourselves sort of attitude, that we're essentially escaping the present moment. Because it's this attitude, this belief that we have to keep fixing ourselves, we have to keep going. But there's nothing wrong with you. The only thing wrong with you is the belief that there's something wrong with you. It's much easier to accept your faults and your weaknesses and to move forward with them rather than to constantly try to change them, because you'll just end up having a hard time changing in general. It's a bit ironic, but truthfully, that's the best way to move forward, is to just accept the fact that, sometimes you suck. Sometimes you leave the toilet seat up. Sometimes you're just a human, and that's okay. It's the belief that you are fine as you are right now, with everything that's going on within you, that is a true acceptance of fixing yourself rather than actually and actively trying to just turn yourself into a different person, because that's not acceptance. Trying to become somebody else is not acceptance, and you'll just you'll trip up along the way, and it'll take so much longer. And I learned that the hard way. No reason to do it, guys. Okay? Number 8 is it's okay to rest. It is. It's very much okay to rest. I've done so much this year, and whether or not I would have done 1,000 things, 10,000 things, 500 things, it has no difference on the outcome. People might never notice. I might still hate it. I might still feel not successful. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters how you feel about what you're doing. And ultimately, we tend to live in a society where we're going and going and going constantly, and nobody ever says, hey, it's okay, take a rest, because some of the best work you'll ever do or the best feelings that you'll ever have will come after a rest. It won't, it's not a result of just constantly moving. You wear yourself out like that. So whether or not it's emotional movement or physical movement, you'll wear your body down. And you don't need to do that. You value yourself above the idea that you're going to be left behind. You're not going to be left behind. Everything will be fine. It's okay to take moments for yourself. Watch a movie, drink pig's blood, whatever it is you got to do to just remember it's okay and I'm okay right now without having to justify my existence. Number 10 is true love is stable. It's true, guys. True love is consistent, stable. It brings you a sense of peace or neutrality. Okay, it doesn't mean that there can't be ups or some slight downs, but if you think that love is this really high and really, it'll have really low lows. And people seem to think that love has to be like this Hollywood sort of thing, but no, it's supposed to be a more stable, consistent sort of relationship or connection. It's not supposed to be super high, super low. That's not love. That's a theme park ride. Okay. Number 11 is diets are stupid. They're stupid. Stop doing them. Diets are legitimately terrible. It's just some asshole with a skillet with a fancy smile who likes a diet saying you should try this. I don't care how spiritual they are or, if Oprah said it was great, that's great. I'm glad for Oprah. She can give me a fucking couch if it's so great. But the thing is that ultimately I've had the most success by listening to my body and not putting pressure on myself to eat a certain way in a strict kind of way. I mean, the truth about diets, the truth about, losing weight or whatever has always been the same throughout history. Eat less, move more. That really is what diets come down to in the simplest form. So doing these elaborate types of things, and most of them don't even have any research to back them up, is really just like trying to get with this fad, trying to do this whole unnecessary. It's unnecessary. Eat what your body feels like eating and try to enjoy things sometimes. Have a piece of cake if you want a piece of cake. Probably don't have one every day, but ultimately diets are just another form of discipline and control when really whatever's getting in the way of you eating healthy or feeling healthy is more than likely emotional, and that it has nothing to do with the diet. The diet is the symptom. If you feel good about yourself, you will tend to eat better anyway. Okay, so and maybe vice versa will be true. So while it is important to move more, eat less shitty foods, get healthy diets, vegetables, things like that, it's pretty natural to just sort of follow your own intuition rather than force yourself to do something. Anyway, that's been my experience and what I've learned. Number 12 is that New Age spirituality is dumb. It is. It's stupid. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. This is not a YouTube channel for New Age spirituality. If that's what you're into, I might not be the guy to get information from. I genuinely do not trust it. I ruined a lot of my life and a lot of my thinking, and these are things like law of attraction, a lot of the twin flame toxicity. I'm not saying I don't believe in twin flame, but just a lot of the toxicity that comes along with it. Positive vibes only. Your thoughts are super powerful. All this stuff that's like really positive and bright, and all this very surface level truth that don't ultimately offer the deepest thing that that you can find. To me, it's a little bit like going to the strip club and expecting to get laid. Sure, this New Age spirituality might, or going to the strip club might get you horny a little bit, might tantalize you, but ultimately you're coming home alone. So it doesn't offer what you really need. New Age spirituality does not teach us to be okay with ourselves. That would just be regular, true, or grounded spirituality. Just being okay with who you are, not needing you to get something or have something else. Okay. Number 13 is that you're not lost, you're making your own path. This is true, guys. We tend to think that we're lost a lot of the time, but if you've ever taken a step in the direction of your dreams, you will inevitably come to a moment where you feel lost, and that's totally okay. We only realize that we're lost, in the moment, but we've been lost for hours. I don't know if you guys have ever gone walking in the woods and actually gotten lost, but once you realize you don't know where you are, it's not like you just started to become lost. You've been lost. But what happens in that situation is people tend to freak out and they actually end up gone, lost for really lost. Whereas if they would have just relaxed, they would have eventually found their way back. And the thing how that relates to us is that you're making your own path. So no, you're not lost. You are making the trail. Somebody has to do it. Why not you? Okay. Number 14 is that there's nothing to be afraid of. Now, obviously, there are some legitimate things to be afraid of that come from our desire to stay alive, right? You'll feel fear in certain situations. A bear is chasing you down. You're probably not going to feel very zen about that. But I'm talking about irrational fears. I'm talking about the fear of public speaking or something like that. Ultimately, our ego is just trying to protect us from something it deems embarrassing, right? Maybe when you were a kid, you tried to do some public speaking and somebody threw a cream pie at your face, and you just associate that with embarrassment. One time in 8th grade, I tried to do this public presentation or whatever, and my eyes just kept rolling back in my head, and everybody called me brain control for 3 months. It was pretty fucking embarrassing. But ultimately, that really scarred me from being able to speak for probably like 6 or 7 years. I was 14, so I really didn't kind of get out of that until 22, really. So I never would have imagined back then ever doing something like a YouTube channel, right? So there's nothing really to be afraid of ultimately. It's just keeping in mind that your ego is trying to protect yourself from something uncomfortable or embarrassing, but that you can move past it. And ultimately, the goal is not to remove fear from your life, but to give yourself courage to simply move forward in spite of it. Okay. I don't even know what number I'm on. Number 15 is that drugs won't help. This is true. I love drugs, guys. Anybody could tell you that. I'll never deny it. I've done a lot of drugs in my life. Nothing with needles. I don't like needles. But, cocaine, weed, alcohol, I guess technically is a drug. Xanax, prescription drugs. Okay, I've done a lot of stuff in my life. Now, as much fun as it can be, or how much it might temporarily help you escape your emotional problems or deal with a situation, it's ultimately not going to help you, right? You need to face yourself. You need to feel what's going on with your life, what's going on with your emotional body. And, no matter how much you smoke or how much high you get or whatever magic mushroom or ayahuasca journey, from regular drugs to spiritual drugs, it doesn't matter how much you do or what you think is going to help. Ultimately, everybody has to come home. And come home to yourself alone and sober. It's the only way to really grow. Number 16 is I don't know anything. It's a bit contradictory, doesn't it? But the truth is I don't. I don't know a goddamn thing. I used to think that I did, but I don't anymore. I don't really know, because there's a vastness. There's a vastness of the unknown that is so large that your brain can't even comprehend it. I mean, it's like trying to imagine how the universe even formed. Like where did it come from? It's like trying to imagine nothingness. Like try to picture death. It's you can't. Your brain cannot give it to you. It just kind of you end up at this sort of abyss, and you just kind of whoa, and you kind of feel weird. It doesn't really know how to give you that answer. So the unknown is so powerful, and the moment that you think that you know something is the moment that you don't know anything, and the minute that you know that you don't know anything is the minute that you do. Are you confused yet? Anyway, so am I. Like I said, I don't know anything. Number 17 is happiness comes from figuring things out, not materialism. Now, what I mean by figuring things out is coming to solutions in your life, right? I don't mean solving a puzzle, though that might bring you happiness. But I literally mean like things working out in your favor, often unexpectedly, right? Not trying to control the outcome, right? And it doesn't come from material things. It doesn't come from how much sex you're having, how much money's in your bank account, what kind of car you're driving. You got a new ugly Tesla that's going to blow up in 10 years. Oh, good, great. Those things will not bring you happiness. Well, it's nice to have those things. I'm sure you guys have heard the expression, it's better to be rich and cry in a Mercedes-Benz than it is to cry and alone broke in a Honda from 1996. That's probably true, I guess. But ultimately, crying is crying. And pain is pain, and your life is your life, regardless of what you surround it with. So how you distract yourself is up to every individual and what their budget allows, of course, but at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that you're going to feel whatever you felt when you didn't have anything, and that's going to linger. And you can ask any of the people that are rich and famous that are no longer here, because they killed themselves, they overdosed on drugs, or whatever the hell happened. Rich, famous, that stuff's not going to bring you happiness, okay? I guess you can't ask them, they're dead, but you get the idea. 18 is that peace is here, not there, okay? So what I mean is that peace is found right now with whatever you're doing, regardless of what your external circumstances look like. You may not want to be where you're at in life. You may not like all the things that are happening in your life. But if you do want to feel some peace, the future's not going to bring it to you, okay? Peace will be here. It's with simple things. I got some bird feeders outside the window, okay? I like to watch the birds. Is it creepy? Maybe, but they're animals. They don't give a shit. And so I'm cool with it. I just like sitting. It's like very meditative, just watching them eat, do their things. Okay, that's really peaceful for me. I've only been doing it for a few weeks, and it's brought more peace into my life. And, it's simple things like that. Reading a book, just enjoying it. Taking a shit when nobody's home. Oh, great. Whatever it is for you that brings you peace in the now, that is just, it's the best way to feel better about things. And you don't need to rely on an outcome, okay, to bring you peace or happiness. And peace is definitely something that's more available than happiness. It's a better goal to have. Peace is consistent and grounded. It never really runs out, because even when things are uncomfortable, you can still be peaceful where you can't be happy. Okay, so peace is just a better goal to have anyway. Number 19 is that getting a book published is hard. Now, this obviously might not resonate with everybody, but it's goddamn hard, guys. If you ever want to write anything and you watch this and you're thinking about writing a book, I of course encourage you to do so. Write it just for your own sake. But it's really hard for first-time authors to get published. Agents don't want to work with new authors, so they won't even reply to you. And publishers don't want to offer you money if you don't have an agent. So it's like, well, what the hell are you supposed to do? Nothing's been more frustrating for me than getting like 5 or 6 sort of companies, editors, essentially saying, hey, we love your book, this is a great premise, great writing, but because you're a new author and you don't have an agent, how about you pay us $3,000 to get it published? I don't have $3,000, man. What the hell? So ultimately, it's a long process. And even when you get all that stuff together, it takes a long time to get a book published. Like, you're looking at like a year to 2 years, really. And people will tell you different things, but ultimately, it's not a short, quick process. So if you're relying on writing to get you to the fame or the riches, it's not going to happen. It's something that happens over time. As for number 20, right? I have number 20 here, is that money comes and goes. Right now, in my life, I've had money I've had lots of money, I've had no money. And really the one thing that I've learned is that when you get small amounts of money, like $100, $200, right? You use that for necessities, bills, groceries, food, clothes. Like you need things, right? Deodorant, condoms, don't get your girl pregnant, things like that, right? But when you get larger sums of money, a couple grand, things like that, you can use it to invest in your life, a new pair of headphones or a vacation, something like that. So knowing how to spend your money is more important than really the amount that's coming in. Number 21 is humanity doesn't suck as much as we think it does. I'm tired of seeing people complain about humanity, that we're terrible, we're awful, the last few years, the worst years ever, COVID, the war, etc., inflation. All of these things are definitely not good, but it's not like any of this stuff is new, guys. And I would still rather take the 21st century over 1356. I mean, at least now you can leave a mean comment on YouTube while you're taking a shit in the bathroom with the door open from a phone that was made by some kid in Korea, okay? So really, life is a lot better than we give it credit for. And finally, 22 is uncomfortable feelings need to be felt. Now, what this means is that you can't run from yourself. Eventually, the biggest spiritual truth that you will learn, and that I'm still really learning, is that anything uncomfortable that you're feeling needs to be dealt with, needs to be sort of faced. Sit with yourself. 20 minutes is really all it takes for that feeling to move through your body. And that's really the only way to get to the next phase of your spiritual development, because that is what is required, the most uncomfortable yet easiest thing you can do, and that's just being still. Okay, guys, like I said, last video of the year. I hope you guys have a good Christmas, a good New Year's, and I'll see you guys in 2023. Bye-bye.